Hello, welcome back to Level 1 News. Today we're doing government and security news. Did I say it's July 12th? I instantly forgot. It's July 12th, in case I didn't mention it.
You got the date wrong last week, last Friday.
Oh, did I? I was like, just now? I'm losing it.
Only 100 people let us know.
I'm distracted by the rain right now. It's like pouring rain
So much
outside.
rain. So much.
Well, we've got some unfortunate news this week. Quite a bit of unfortunate news. And the economy is still bad, but even worse than that is it seems like the march toward control has been stepped up again. I guess because they're worried about social unrest.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's coming.
A lot of that is happening, not just the UK, but also the EU.
So now what are the two, let's review. If you've been watching for any amount of time, what are the two things that you bring up when you want to take away people's rights and you don't want them to fight back about it?
Think of the children.
And terrorists.
UK could force end-to-end encrypted platforms to do CSAM-scanning. So this is the thing where it's like, okay, it's end-to-end encrypted, but we need you to decrypt it in the middle so we can automatically scan for certain things. And it's like, well, that's not end-to-end encrypted anymore then.
But we're doing it to protect you.
Right.
And then it's like, oh.
Not to protect you, to protect the children.
Now, let's just think about this. When Google implemented this and rolled out, the weird stuff started happening with documents. Remember, people had a document that contained only a dot, and then they got emails from Google that said, we've determined that you've got some really extra mega bad documents. We're going to lock you out from accessing those documents. And you just couldn't access it. Like, your documents were just gone.
And you're never going to be able to see what that list is because by the nature of the list, they can't give it to you. So
I really have reservations about turning all of your computers into a thing that has a background process that's running surveillance on you the whole time. Even if that software were perfect, which it's not, you should still have ethical reservations about doing that.
this from someone who insists on constantly playing PUBG.
It is invasive.
Now, Japan, they have decided to take a little bit of a different approach, although they do assure us, and I don't know why we'd ever doubt this, that this will never be abused. This will only be used for proper things.
Japan introduces jail time and tougher penalties for online insults. I guess Tokyo is facing a little bit of unrest too, in other news.
Yeah, that just came up this morning, I think. Yeah. He passed away. Their old prime minister.
I don't understand. He was out of power, right?
Yeah.
But it's election season. It's 2 days from the election at the time we're filming this.
Does he have that much sway that he can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did a lot.
Strange, though. Yeah.
For the yeah. So, I don't know, politically or whatever.
So you're saying there's still hope for George W. Just kidding. This is the young lady who sparked this. She was a wrestler and some sort of online like e-girl type person. And apparently people didn't like her for whatever reason and said some bad things to her. So she said, you know what, I'm just going to nope on out. So now you can't make posts online. And, Canada. Boy, they're leaning into the totalitarianism, aren't they?
Yeah.
Fully leaning into it. And we find out that some things have been going on for quite some time.
Quote unquote, asleep at the wheel, as reported by The Guardian. Canada's police spyware admission raises an alarm. So apparently the RCMP is like, oh yeah, the people that got speeding tickets, we just totally loaded down their phones with horrible spyware and have been running out their batteries. And it's like, wait, what? It's like,
imagine wasting resources on people who speed.
It's like, that's totally part of our police toolbox. Now, I'm making up the speeding part, but it was really relatively minor stuff. And the RCMP seems to be going nuts with the tool. So
jaywalking.
Think about that when it's like, oh, we must protect the children. And then eventually it's jaywalking, anybody that's saying something a politician doesn't like, you know.
It's unfortunate. A lot of things happening in Canada are real unfortunate right now.
Think about a political figure that you don't like. Now imagine if they have unfettered access to your cell phone and your other information. Who wouldn't have a problem with that?
There's no other kind of political figure. Now, Japan, that's a bad sort. Japan is also lining up behind the U.S. and the EU and every other country, Russia, China, and going after the big tech companies.
This is a Financial Times article, but I don't even know the title.
It's in the blue strip.
Japanese court ruling poised to make big tech open up on algorithms. Yeah, this is the common theme in Japan and the European Union. They want to know what makes these things tick. Talk.
What makes them addictive? And of course, their argument is that as a trade secret, if we tell you that, then everybody will know how to make it addictive, and we won't be able to get them addicted anymore.
Or maybe it'll have an immunization effect.
Oh no.
No. People will never get tired of scrolling through cat videos.
I would be fine if my mom was addicted to Wordle.
Look, I know damn well how bad sugar is for me. That's not how you beat addictions.
Does your mom play Wordle?
No.
Oh, she should.
She does like crosswords, though.
I play Wordle every day.
I discovered a new one now. There's Hurdle, which plays a tiny clip of music, and you have to guess.
Oh, I've listened. I've done that one. I'm not very good at it.
Was it Ben Stein that was on the Name That Tune show before he went to win Ben Stein's money? And it was like, I can name that tune in one note, and it's just like, you're just showing off now.
Well, Russia. Russia is the boogeyman. I'm sorry. Middle Eastern countries are the boogeyman. But, scratch that. Now it's Russia. Oh, wait, scratch that because they're busy with something else. Who do we got left? Oh, right. China.
China, MI5 and FBI heads warn of immense threat. So there's an article about this. You should watch this, but the video is actually much more interesting. They sort of speak obliquely during this, and they just say that China spying is stepping up. And it almost, at first, sounded like they were talking about industrial espionage, because China wants to produce more stuff domestically, and they certainly can because they, rare earth materials, and there have already been certain semiconductor sanctions that are put into place, but certainly it seems like China's looking at the sanctions that are happening elsewhere and saying, gosh, that would be really bad for us. Let's try to become self-sufficient. But then at the end of this, almost like a plant, there was somebody in the audience that said, are you talking about Taiwan? And they said, oh yeah, we're
talking about Taiwan.
And that changed the context of what they were saying. So
not just tech either. They also pointed out that like those Monsanto seeds, they don't have any problem replanting Monsanto seeds. And they come over here and just get them out of farms. I mean, how are you going to protect an entire farm and stop them? They only need a couple. Yeah. And so they really just don't care about property, intellectual property and all that thing, which they've never have. But now all of a sudden we're admitting it. I don't know why. I don't know what changed.
Yeah, I also thought it was strange that they did this out of nowhere.
Maybe
just both heads.
It could be the fact that China's just doing a lot better at it right now.
Yeah.
Like they're making some huge gains with this whole Belt and Road thing.
The Belt and Road thing, huge economic gains. The median salary, like the median worker salary, has moved up tremendously in China. I mean, it looks like they're poised to have a really good economic boom.
Wow.
Well, as much as you can right now, I guess.
But even then, I mean, a lot of that stuff's fake. They have a lot of fake stuff in China. But and the Bank of International Settlements gave them a loan denominated in their currency, not in dollars, for the first time.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and over in the EU, of course, they I would say they started this party. They were the first to really seriously go after the big tech companies.
EU's regulatory iceberg bears down on tech's big ships, implying that tech is the Titanic and they're going to be sunk. I've got some bad news for whoever wrote this. It's not going to be like that at all.
I wish it were, but I don't think so.
This is all, they're rolling it all up. They got the payment processor stuff, the side loading, all of that stuff, all the big issues. And they're taking some pretty serious positions on them. A lot of people are now assuming that we're going to end up in a situation where we might have to split at least social media down the middle. One kind in Europe, one kind in the Americas.
But it would also lead to how devices are managed and the actual technology. The EU legislation has phones and stuff being managed more like personal computers where you have, total control over everything.
And of course, the UK no longer in the EU, but they are doing their own version of all of this.
Amazon is being investigated in the UK for practices which may give customers a worse deal. So this sounds really good, but this is another one of those articles where you read it and it sounds like that most of the people involved in trying to make a change here understand that something bad is going on, but don't understand at all how to address it.
Has to do with the recommended items. For example, when you put something in your cart, you get that little strip on the side. Almost always Amazon products.
Yeah.
Almost always an alternative to the product you're buying that's an Amazon product, if that's what the situation.
I mean,
So,
you could distill what they're worried about down into basically, is anybody that you interact with financially the least bit predatory about anything at all?
And you have to interact with them.
Yeah, and so I don't understand what they hope to accomplish there. Because like if you go to a bodega, it's like I want to pick up the most recent copy of The Sun in dead tree format. Oh, look at that! They've got a bag of M&Ms for sale here as well, just right in front of me as I'm handing the cashier the money. You could make the argument that it's basically the same thing. The bodega owner has picked which things go there.
Yeah, probably true. But yeah, there is a lot more manipulation going on there, behind the scenes.
That's true.
Now, I have to wonder, I mean, this is a terrible thing, obviously, and it could lead people astray, but how are you following, what's the Twitter? At British Army. So you're following at British Army, you're enjoying all the Army updates and the patriotic stuff, and then one day, they're trying to sell you NFTs, and the gears don't turn at all, and you think, wow, that's weird. You're just like, yes, I want British Army NFTs, please, immediately. Even though they weren't affiliated once you clicked through.
British Army Twitter and YouTube accounts have been compromised to promote crypto scams. The Army's investigating.
I'm just about like, what universe are we in where it's like, maybe that is reasonable. Like, maybe a crypto
I better get in on this early.
NFT
I know.
from, yeah.
I've learned with NFTs, you want to get in early. So if the British Army's telling me to.
Obviously.
The Queen wouldn't let this happen.
We don't know exactly how, but I imagine someone was fished. It's pretty much 99% of the time how it happens.
The British NFTs are coming. 1 if by land, 0 if by sea.
Now, we learned that we had a huge injunction for online uploads and filtering. It was really, really a nasty ruling. It had to do with an Israeli company who was broadcasting Israeli TV shows to the United States without permission. And we were just like, oh my God, is anybody going to step in and do anything about this? Turns out, yes, Cloudflare, but not for any benevolent reasons. Just because this would have destroyed Cloudflare, it would have made them liable for a lot of stuff.
Broadest U.S. patent sought injunction rewritten and tamed by Cloudflare. So this injunction was basically, you can get an injunction against the current domain names and any other future domain names. And it was basically carte blanche to let copyright holders dictate how companies like Cloudflare would run their infrastructure. And so, of course, Cloudflare had to spend the time and effort to be like, what are you guys doing? This is really dumb. We should not have to point out the idiocy of this. It's like somebody is using the municipal water to boil water and throw boiling water in people's faces as they pass by. It's like, well, obviously the obvious solution is to have the municipal water company shut down the entire block. Obviously.
You just described gun control. Now, Activision, they have faced some backlash recently.
Yeah, quite a bit.
They've made some decisions that people did not care for, and they've drawn some ire. Microsoft, also not a popular company. A lot of people have ill will toward Microsoft. Hopefully, that will affect this.
Microsoft's $69 billion Activision acquisition faces competition probe in the UK. Basically, in the UK, is this going to hurt competition? Spoiler alert, it will. But who cares?
The other game companies?
Yeah.
Microsoft, of course, has a rich history of acquiring and destroying game companies. And now they got the Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean,
which changes the business model entirely.
Microsoft can acquire and destroy other game companies, and then the IP is locked up forever. This is good for other game companies.
But the UK, remember, they did step in on NVIDIA and ARM.
They did, yeah.
They are not fans of this kinds of thing. Now we have sirens.
Yeah, I don't know if the mics will pick that up. Probably.
Probably.
Let's have a moment of silence.
That's why people subscribe here.
Now you don't have to edit that out. And Twitter. Oh boy. India. India and Twitter. But India is the one who has a problem with all social media. They have decided that if you're going to run social media in India, you will do whatever they say.
Twitter, challenging block orders, sues India's government. I don't know how successful they're going to be with this, but the lawsuit's pretty on fire because it basically says, like, this is basically just to support the corruption in the Indian government. And let's talk about that point by point.
And they have given several points, not the least of which are some bans were not for content, nor did they reference actual content. It was just like, this journalist. What post from that journalist? No,
just
you don't understand.
anything from them.
Just that journalist in general must be blocked.
They are persona non grata to the Indian government.
So unfortunate if you like Indian Twitter.
Oh, were you guys going to talk about that publicly? Oh man, we didn't realize. Sorry,
bummer.
our bad. I mean, at least here there's parallel construction, and they, this guy jaywalked 3 years ago. We've got his GPS. We got him.
But they hide that as well.
Yeah, but
Really, it's just terrible everywhere. Just in different ways.
Just a little more in your face. India's just not had the practice. They'll get it eventually. And, this is an interesting idea. Of course, I think we're going to see a lot more of this. Not quite populism or nationalism, but sort of like us versus them, and we'll decide who us is in individual situations. But let me just throw this out here. The name for this thing, because they haven't named it yet, they're saying metallic NATO. Natalica. Am I right? What a great name.
RPT-COLUMN-U.S. The U.S. forms a friendly coalition to secure critical minerals. Yes, Natalica. That might be the title of the article this week.
We never
We'll forget.
remember those.
Yeah, we'll say it in the episode and then be like, oh, I don't remember what were we going to put that one?
So we're talking about rare earth metals, but also things like neon gas, the problems that are happening in Europe right now. It's made it hard to get critical materials for globalization production, and it's weird because we can't really deglobalize because nobody has everything you need. Like when you play Civ, it's like you have to trade. It's good for you to trade. Nobody wants to trade because everybody's different idealistically.
But some people do have most of this stuff, which that would be China and Russia. And so because they have most of it, and because we're probably easing into a war with one or both of them, time to think about that. Time to think about alternatives. So
we found some good rare earth deposits that are near the shore, but still sort of problematic to mine. So that'll probably be good for the U.S. But I don't even know if anybody. It's so ecologically damaging for these things that there's not a lot of that going on in the U.S. Well, anywhere in North America, really. South America is maybe the frontier for rare earth metals.
You know what's more ecologically damaging? Chinese invasion. Another ape club has fallen, and I couldn't be happier. To all of you who lost everything from this, you deserved it.
The DOJ files charges against the Baller Ape Club, quote-unquote, rug pull. So there's a lot of amazing evidence. Like, law enforcement has done their job here. And this was a scheme from the beginning. And it was designed to defraud people, basically. And it's not just this one. Actually, the DOJ is working on several of these.
Are you saying that bored apes aren't a good investment?
This is not bored apes. These are baller apes.
Oh, okay.
New kind of ape.
I thought it was just like a name for...
No.
Wow.
I don't even know if it's the same guy.
No.
This is just everybody's getting on the ape bandwagon.
Yeah.
I like how you have a physical reaction.
Yeah, as much as it can be a legitimate operation, the Bored Ape Club is a legit operation. And now, actually, the Bored Ape people might have cause for a lawsuit against the Baller Ape Club because maybe that's creating confusion.
Imagine in 100 years when the sociologists and anthropologists are looking at it, and I was like, well, there was the Bored Ape League. And then there was the Baller Apes, and that kicked off World War III, and we can't figure it out.
We don't know why.
We don't know why.
I feel like I'm back.
So much was lost when they started using the nukes.
I feel like I'm back in a college history class, and we're talking about the fall of Rome and the things that were happening.
I'm thinking just like items leading up to World War III.
Well, the political class granting themselves power and favor and keeping everybody else out of politics. Check. Devaluation of the currency. Check.
Your voice got like a little panicky there. Check.
Yeah, it seems kind of close. Seems real similar. Did we do this one last week? I have a vague memory that we already talked
We did a
about.
story about this a while ago, but I don't think that they had announced that they were going to actually do anything about it.
Okay, good. So they did do something, and Amazon did surprisingly admit,
We do kind of do that.
we didn't mean to, but maybe there was a dark pattern. Maybe.
Amazon agrees to drop the Prime cancellation, quote-unquote, dark patterns in Europe.
But not in the U.S.
But not in the
because
US.
nobody cares about what happens in the U.S.
Yeah, you're going to have to jump through some hoops to cancel your Amazon Prime in the U.S. It's not like it matters anyway. The package delivery times at this point are just random.
I really should just get rid of my Prime.
Yeah,
Might wait till September 2nd. For
But
that.
I still spend so much with them that the shipping costs I would still lose money, I think.
You need to make a spreadsheet.
You know what's really crazy is that Amazon grocery delivery is getting to be better than the grocery pickup from the local grocery places. Like, how do you fail that badly?
Yeah. That whole world is just bad.
Yeah.
It's just poorly done. But it's hard to make money. I understand that it's hard to make money at that because it's like you would have to pay people Chinese level salaries to ever make money at that.
It surprises me that the grocery pickup can be as unprofitable as it is, because it seems like just managing the logistics, like the way the Walmart has, that would be a much lower cost of operation than maintaining, what they maintain inside the store.
But you still have to do both.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
But you're reducing the amount of traffic inside the store as well.
But
so
those lights and air conditioning don't care how many people are in the store. It's just it still has to run.
less cashiers and stuff, though. Less stockers that have to stock from the back to the front.
Well, here's a headline that you don't want to see when we are so close to a possible World War III. Because we have learned when it comes to hypersonic ICBMs that we're a little bit behind. But hey, don't worry, because we got some new ones on the way. Oh, but
ICBM test rocket explodes seconds after launch. This is on the Hill, so this article has a lot of political undertones, but basically Space Force tried their own ICBM launch. It did not go well.
I can't get over that we have a Space Force. I mean, I think it kind of makes sense the way things are going, but also, like, Space Force.
There's Space Force on Netflix, and every time I read an article like this, I'm thinking about...
Yeah, it doesn't feel real, right? Like,
Yeah.
it feels like a parody or something, or a television show. Or
Yeah, it's like John Malkovich was, like, screaming at somebody as the rocket exploded, and the whole problem was because they accidentally hit the oxygen button instead of some other button, and it's just, I don't know.
Damn, and he ripped his glasses off. Next time on Space Force.
This only made it 11 seconds, and I imagine that due to the delayed liftoff time, sometimes they're just like hovering there. It was still close enough to the ground, started a pretty big fire.
Yeah.
So, unfortunate. Sure, we'll try again.
Next season on Space Force.
You think it'll take them another season?
Is it better or worse than Picard?
That's much better.
Almost everything could be better than Picard.
It's actually much more genuinely entertaining. It's just because it's able to. It definitely conveys like some of the Kafka-esque aspects of, but also it's just, I don't know. It's just funny.
I think the last thing I had a really physical reaction to was Picard. Watching that first episode, I was like, oh.
You should watch Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I probably wouldn't like that either.
I mean, there's moments of okay stuff in there, but there's so much that
You have to like slog through to get to.
Those editors, I feel like they must have had a gun on them the entire time. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you will leave that in.
Like the chase scene. I did see a clip of that where they're chasing the little girl.
That's not even close to the bottom.
Wow.
Now, do you guys recall the last time the FCC asked everybody to weigh in on a topic on their online forum?
Yes.
Yes.
It was all bots.
I seem to remember it not going well.
Oops, all bots.
I wonder if anything has changed.
Ars Technica reports that the FCC got 90,000 plus comments from Starlink users protesting Dish mobile service. The FCC comments show Starlink's importance in rural areas neglected by wireline ISPs. These are amazing. What happened was Starlink sent an email to their subscribers in North America and said, hey, Dish wants to use some of our spectrum for their own mobile services, and we think it's going to interfere. You should tell the FCC how important your service is. And Starlink is important. The incumbent ISPs have completely, I can't understate how badly rural areas have been shafted. Even not necessary, like you could just live in the wrong house in the middle of town and then all of a sudden they want $40,000.
Well, there are people where I live, like, we have good internet at our house, but like 3 or 4 houses down the road, no internet.
Yeah. It is bad. And anytime you read an article that says, oh, it's not really that bad, that's a lie. That was a plant. Probably Mickey Mouse himself ordered that article to be there.
The ghost of Disney.
And Dish is dying.
Yeah.
Is there any chance Dish survives?
No, it's the withering husk of Dish is owned by the telecommunications incumbents. It is being animated Weekend at Bernie's style to try to convince you that something might come of this and there might be more mobile competition. But it is a ruse. It's fake. It's not real. And Starlink, like, it pains me to praise something that should not need to exist. We as taxpayers have paid money to have fiber run everywhere such that something like Starlink would not be necessary. But here we are.
Honestly, those AT&T execs who bought Dish way back then, they should all just be locked up for fiduciary duty. I mean, nobody thought that was going to work, and it spectacularly did not.
We remember the episode that we did on that? Like half the episode was just ranting about how stupid that was.
And here we are. Somebody came up with something that actually works, and now they're just trying to put this in front of it.
Yeah, to wreck it because it competes with them. They can't charge $40,000 to hook up your 3 meg DSL.
You ever see those videos of like really trashy women getting into fights and hitting each other with their babies? That's what this is. Dish is the baby that's being wielded as a cudgel. Now, we learned about Anom a while back. You think it's Anom or Anom? Probably Anom for anonymous. Right?
Yeah, I would think.
It was a special kind of mobile phone that was built for criminal activity. Now, if you think that's a little suspicious, you're right on the money, because it was the FBI the entire time. And now we're learning more about that.
This is the code the FBI used to wiretap the world. You should read this. It's cool. But also keep in the back of your mind, when law enforcement shows up and said, oh gosh, we need to break that end-to-end encryption, this is Exhibit A for why that's a lie.
There's a little piece of it. Now, they did crap on this code pretty bad, although they had to admit that some of the engineers at Anom were completely blind to the idea that the FBI was running the show. They thought they were still working at a company that was just doing like really, really safe communication. The FBI would then take their stuff and break it and copy paste it and do the other stuff. The way they did it, and they point out that this is something that has actually been talked about in government as a way to get around this whole end-to-end encryption thing. They create another contact on your phone, and then that contact gets added to everything you do. So if you want to start a text message or a group chat,
it's a hidden contact.
The contact gets added to the group chat. So it's like, oh, here's the cocaine chat. Guess who's in there? It's always the FBI.
Now, if you're thinking, this sounds familiar, have you guys covered this before? We have. This is how it operates in China with things like WeChat. So when you say something like, are you going to the Tiananmen Square remembrance thing, that message is deleted before it makes it to anybody.
And you get a visit.
And you're disappeared, yeah.
And your QR code changes colors.
And when your family calls you in a week, a policeman answers and it says, why have you let them talk about such things?
And then your liver's gone.
And Apple, of course, their phones, I think their phones are probably more often used among journalists and the idealists, the people who buy into that kind of garbage. And so they get targeted a lot by these kinds of things where we find out in Spain, Italy, United States, Israel, India, definitely China and Russia.
Canada now. With
Middle East. Mm-hmm. So you get this malware on your phone. We all know that NSO has great Apple malware. They have great things to break Apple. What can you do about it? And Apple has sort of half-assed their response.
Apple's quote-unquote lockdown mode protects potential hacking targets. Basically, it turns off automatic stuff for the group chat. It turns off automatic stuff for FaceTime. It turns automatic website previews, which could give away your location. But Apple says this is not for everybody. If you just want good security and you're an ordinary person, this is not for you. This is only for like extreme important people. So it's going to be horribly inconvenient, which is a terror. Like, does no one understand security at Apple? Like, why would you do it this way?
Because you don't actually want to do it.
Yeah.
Because it ruins the experience.
Yeah.
And it shows people, if people look at the lockdown phone versus their phone and how bad it is, they're like, oh, so everything my phone does is a vector?
Yes.
Can we just use 2 pixels at the top of the screen that glow green when the microphone is on? How hard would that be to do?
But they need that so they can advertise to you at all turns.
And phishing links. Now, you would expect someone who's working at a front desk to get phished. You would expect someone who's working in HR to get phished. Maybe low technical knowledge. But you wouldn't expect one of your head engineers to get phished. And yet.
How a fake job offer took down the world's most popular crypto game.
Ugh.
So this is a crypto game that was blockchain adjacent, I guess. and they had like 11 control nodes, and the bad guys needed to compromise like 6 of them. With the fish, they immediately compromised 5, and they stayed in the system forever. Lateral movements eventually meant that they controlled, I guess it looks like it was 11 of 19 by then, something like that.
Now, they should have done more to keep their employees happy, because this guy got fished because he was looking to leave the company. He was offered a job somewhere else at a company that was fake, and boy, did they offer him a lot of money, fake money. And at the end of that whole process, they sent him a PDF. That's what got him. Only open PDFs in your virtual machine, not on your main developer computer at work. And here's a headline that we just keep seeing. And they kind of had some things. It's like, well, what have you done to try to protect this? And I said,
Basically nothing.
That thing.
Hotel giant Marriott confirms yet another data breach. They cleaned up the last one, and they didn't really make any changes. Oh, and it happened again.
Wasn't it like last year that this happened?
Yeah.
It wasn't even that long ago.
And the other hotel chains have been hit in the meantime.
Yeah.
So, they knew that. They were paying attention to that. Also, it's not actually possible to get a hotel room without a card, right?
Right.
Because they want the damages. We need a better system for that.
Oh, let's make an NFT marketplace where you trade NFTs for hotel rooms.
Or you could do an NFT escrow hotel deposit. Or maybe not NFT, but maybe crypto. Something like that. They'd probably try to claw it back every time, wouldn't they? It's like, oh, look at these cigarette burns. It's like, well, those were there when I came. You'd have to videotape the whole room, like when you move out of an apartment.
Well, move in or move out of an apartment, because they'll try to get you for everything.
And cryptographic algorithms. Now, there's been some issues in the past with our cryptographic algorithms, and this organization was part of that. So makes you wonder a little bit. But now we have some new candidates.
The NIST announces the first 4 quantum-resistant cryptographic algorithms. So you can read about those. The first 3, the third one is really interesting. It doesn't use hashes or anything. It's like something else. The 2 of them use a lattice function to try to do it. So it doesn't matter that you have a quantum computer. They're quantum resistant. But also, I'm pretty sure that AES is quantum resistant. Like, you can only reduce the number of things you have to check by like half, which is still an absurdly large number.
We've not actually chosen one yet, so that's still to come, but we will switch over to that one day.
Well, the preliminary recommendations is to implement these 3. 2 of them, they're all really interesting approaches to the problem, and different enough that it's like, hey, maybe one of these will survive.
Now, this headline, I think, is the same as a follow-up, because there was both a hacker claiming this and a web portal that was wide open. Did you see those as the same things?
Yeah.
I think they are the same thing.
A hacker claims to have stolen the data of 1 billion Chinese from police. China Dan is asking for a ransom of 200,000 in equivalent, 200,000 U.S. equivalent in Bitcoin.
But there was a police portal that just had, like you could probably use incremental keys or something like that. And I think that might be where they scraped this from. I don't know if this was necessarily a hack, because anybody could do that until they fixed that.
I think one of the articles that I read said that they shared information on something like 7 million of the records, and they called the people, and it was real.
Of course it's real, because anybody could have grabbed it from that web portal. And it was there for, I think, 6 years.
Oh.
And that's a lot of records in China.
Friendly reminder that the California DMV will happily sell the DMV records to anybody that wants to buy them. ...
Don't even have to hack anything. Just have to pay them.
Yeah.
Well, I guess hacking is cheaper. And, of course, another week, and we've got a new wormable Windows exploit.
Microsoft finds a Raspberry Robin worm in hundreds of Windows networks. ... And then the follow-up is Microsoft has decided to re-enable Microsoft Office macros. Thanks, Microsoft, for keeping security researchers employed for decades to come.
What an attractive bird. Do you think that's Photoshopped?
It's definitely Photoshopped.
He's super red.
Yeah, because the background also has like a pinkish hue. They took that image and then they put it in Photoshop, and then they changed it to the red hue, and then they changed the saturation up.
They color graded it before they pasted it. What a rookie move, bleeping computer.
They didn't even put a picture of a worm. It should have had a worm in its mouth.
And, of course, this is the hot topic of the day. And these people are actually going back in time to dig up stuff. But it does point out that in the connected age that we live in, almost nothing about your personal life is private.
Yeah. Text and web searches. This article on MSN says the text and web searches about abortion have been used to prosecute women. And they went into an article where a woman was basically at the end of her term, and it was really not a great situation. But they used her past text messages and other stuff to prosecute her.
Also point out that depending on these laws, if you were to just go on Amazon and buy certain birth control methods, especially like the morning after type of stuff and the pills, then those crossing state lines, there's like a lot of question there. We've certainly seen the government go after people for less. So it is a bit worrying.
Yeah, like buying moonshine across state lines.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if we just had privacy about the things we buy online.
No, that's no. We can't do that.
Well, of course, if we did that, people might be able to get their hands on pressure cookers.
We need to co-opt your phone.
Lawn darts.
Your phone is maintaining a long list of things that are disallowed, and it's like, you know, I bought a lawn dart and a pressure cooker on the same day, and my battery's already at 7%. It's trying to get somebody's attention.
Remember that, I can't remember which government it was, but the people, I think it was in Africa, where the people were breaking the phone protection so that they could delete the spy partition because it was eating up all their space. They couldn't store anything else because it was just all spy partition.
That's coming to a first world country near you.
You got to get an extra storage device for your spy partition. And this is terrifying, and we just keep seeing stories about this over and over. Something has to happen here. Like, I mean, we're going after Apple for all these other things, and admittedly, those are important things, but this one seems more critical because this is actively being used by criminals every day.
Altered Carbon actor Hannah Rose May shares a recent AirTag tracking experience. In summary, she went to Disneyland, and at Disneyland, they check your bags, and the AirTag apparently showed up when they checked her bags.
Look at the URL. Look at the friendly URL and look at the title. They changed that title. Why do you think they changed that title?
Because Disneyland.
Well, so look at the photo, the stock, or not the stock photo, but the actual article photo is also.
In before Disney.
So she tweeted about this. She went through a bag check, and then she went along her enjoyment of Disneyland. And when she got back to her car, her phone picked it up. And she was like, wait, what? She went through her purse. There it was. She was being tracked. Now, why would you track? Very attractive young girl. I don't know if they knew she was famous or if this is just standard Disney lechery.
The article does talk about some false positives because somebody was in an Uber and it was like, hey, an AirTag is following you. And it's like, okay, was that, you know, something that was on the person's person, or was that a phantom AirTag, or was that, you know, what is it? So there have been some false positives documented, not in this case, but there are some false positive cases. And, you know, the Apple ad campaign sort of writes itself here. It's like, oh, you don't have an iPhone and somebody's tracking you with it? Well, I guess you'll die.
Well, see, I thought about that, and I was
what
like,
a happy ad campaign that is.
because you have no protection against this. If somebody wants to know where you live, all they got to know is what car you drive.
Yeah.
Right.
And they just slap it on there, and then
Call the DMV. I've got $100.
So here's the thing. I was like, well, is there a way to detect these things? Can I get like an open source app that can detect that signal or whatever? Turns out there's a Play Store app for Google users. But when you read about how it actually works, it's by Apple. Apple made it. Apple did everything they could to prevent you from actually finding these.
Yeah.
It's just I feel good now because I have this. That's not how it works. And it only detects if they've not already been paired with another iPhone. But I don't really understand how AirTags work entirely, but wouldn't they be able to do that anyway to track you?
No, it's pretty crazy. It's a low energy beacon, but every Apple device, there's so many Apple devices, every Apple device looks for that beacon, and any random Apple device in the area belonging to anybody will report the coordinates of where it saw that device.
But not to the Google app if another Apple app is currently engaging with it.
Right.
So it's useless. And it doesn't tell you until like 15 minutes after that disconnect happens.
Well, I think the way it's supposed to work is that it'll detect it immediately, but it doesn't say anything is happening until after it's followed you around for a while. Yeah.
So AirTags, a real threat. And so far, not sure how to deal with them.
Apple gets to decide what is and is not a threat. You can't just get a map of all AirTags everywhere.
Plus, this is that whole situation where it's like video game hacking. On one hand, it's ruining the experience for everybody else. But on the other hand, they sell a new AirTag every time you get stalked.
Right. That's the reason games also don't deal with Smurfs at all, because it's like, well, that person bought another game. I don't care if they're ban evading.
I don't care if they're a serial rapist. They're our best customer.
I will say that AirTags for tracking stolen trash cans have been real handy.
Wait, have you been doing that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if that the collateral damage, I think, is a little too high. When we compare trash can to human trafficking. Can trafficking versus human trafficking. All right, that's all we got.
We'll see you guys soon. Bye.